All right. U.S. Classic Muscle Cars would like to know what kind of exhaust that you use.
Okay, hi, I'm Mike. It's my brother John.
Hello, everyone.
It's my 71 Dodge Charger. Owned it since I was in my senior year in college. The car was bought by my father in 1971 because my mother liked the color. The color originally was high impact butterscotch with a white vinyl roof. Standard equipment on the car was a 318 engine, automatic, just your basic Dodge Charger, one step up above a six-cylinder. So my father had the car for about 6 years, then sold it to my younger brother Tom, and my brother John here used to rob the car from my brother Tom and gearhead around town. At the time, we used to live in Westchester, Illinois, and so eventually my brother Tom bought a new car, and I was in college. He said, "Mike, do you want the car?" I said, "Yeah, I'll buy it off you." Don't remember what he sold it to me for, but I used the car beyond college. Was married to my wife Charlotte. Used the car until we started having children, which was probably about 1984.
So is the car responsible for you to have children?
I won't go into that. Okay. This is G-rated.
Okay.
So about 1984, I bought a used car downstate. My in-laws live downstate. They farm. So what I did is I popped the car on blocks into a barn. Barn had a concrete floor. And the car sat there for 25 plus years.
Really?
Yes. So about 10 years ago, my father-in-law calls. He says, "Mike," says, "I think the barn's about to collapse. You better get the car out of there."
Wow.
So I approached my brother-in-law, who's a mechanic, who races, who restores cars, and I said, "Joe, I got a job for you." He says, "Mike, if you weren't family, I wouldn't do it. The car looks in pretty bad shape."
Right, wow.
So for those of you who know, it's very difficult getting parts, almost impossible getting parts for this series of Dodge Chargers, the 71s through 73s. So everything we did to it had to be actually welding, steel on steel. So the first thing we did was deassemble the car, took all the parts off it, and had the chassis dipped. And the chassis then was coated. Can't remember what they call that. It was dipped and sandblasted, and then an epoxy type coating was put over the chassis.
Okay.
And then from there we just systematically went and started fixing quarter panels. Some of the worst spots were hidden by the old white vinyl top. There was a lot of rust under the white vinyl top, so we had to do a lot of restoration of metal.
Who painted the car?
The car was painted by a gentleman called Mr. Wonderful out of Aurora.
Oh, really?
I don't know his last name. He goes by Mr. Wonderful.
The guy that's on Shark Tank, right?
I don't.
Not that guy.
Not that Mr. Wonderful, but so originally, as I said earlier, it had a 318 engine. That engine seized up, so we popped in a Mopar.
Can we see?
400, yeah. Mopar 400 cubic inch engine, crate engine. It has a racing cam, produces 390 horsepower, and as you can see, it really fills the cavity here, right? You know,
Right.
you know, in the days when this car was a stock car, they needed this extra space to put the large engines in it that stock car racers required. But for the consumer segment, you know, the biggest engine you get in this car was a 440, and of course there was the Hemi.
Right.
But you know, this engine was available. Was able to purchase this at a very reasonable price. Like I said earlier, it's got a racing cam, produces 390 horsepower. Car is very heavy, but it moves it.
Right. And then now we get to the one of the best parts, the paint.
Yeah, the paint.
And so the paint was how many layers? And is it
You know,
lacquer?
I couldn't tell you, but
You did a great job.
significant number of layers. This paint job is 10 years old now. I could actually expose for you the old color of the car because
Sure, why
I wanted to preserve some of the old features of the original car. So one of the things I did was left the color of the old car on the bolts that attach the trunk. You know, so that's that in its day was called high impact butterscotch.
Yeah, right.
You know, you can't. They're kind of scraped down a little bit now,
Sure.
but that's that gives you an indication of what the color was.
Can we take a peek at the interior?
Sure. So the interior, except for the bucket seats, is original, and of course the steering wheel. Again, everything was. Actually, the seats in the original car were. And your name is?
U.S. Classic Muscle Car.
Classic Muscle Car. The back seat was originally a tan,
Okay.
and so my brother-in-law was able to find a upholstery paint.
Right. There you go.
We were able to paint the car,
Right.
paint the seats black.
There you go.
In fact, all the panels were at one time a brownish tan color.
Right.
They were all painted.
Right. Now, let me ask you now, how does the car sound?
Do we want to witness that? Okay,
Why don't you give the mic to your brother?
John, say a few words.
I don't know if I ever started your car, Mike.
Tell them what you used to do to this car that you never told me.
Well, reason the transmission has been changed out is I think I tore up the old one. So we had to put a new one in. But it's got a nice sound to it. It's got a nice rumble to it.
Yeah, it does.
Nice rumble.
Yeah.
And for
got a great
like,
sound.
like my Mike said, like for a heavy car,
Right.
it moves pretty well. It moves pretty well.
What about the car show awards?
The very first car show I went to, which was Downers Grove, the Four Corners. Trying to remember that restaurant that's there, John.
Oh, that was Tilted Kilt.
Oh, Tilted Kilt. They used to have a car show
Right.
on Route 53 at the Tilted Kilt.
5-6 years ago.
Yeah. So that was the very first car show I went to after the restoration, and they gave me a plastic trophy which I still have in the trunk.
There you go.
Thank you for watching. Remember to always to go to YouTube, U.S. Classic Muscle Cars. God bless.
Please like and share all of our videos.